Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2025 Economic Forecast event by LAEDC. As I was mentioning earlier today, we're delighted to have a special guest with us. The California State Governor, Gavin Newsom, is joining us to talk a little bit about the various initiatives. The governor does not require introduction, and since we only have 30 minutes, I'm going to jump right into it.
Let's do it. How's everybody? Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to catch up, and thank you for all your hard work, and all of you for all your hard work in the breakout rooms and the spirit that brings you here today and together. So thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Governor. As we started the day, we really focus on the data. The LAEDC, the LA County Economic Development Corporation, has been around for 43 years now, and we're really a public-private partnership before that was a thing. And our goal is to be able to transform our regional economy by making sure that we have competitive industries and making sure that those good jobs, good entrepreneurship opportunities are available to all Angelenos. Especially, we're mentioning why we're here in the East LA College. There's so many opportunities that have been missed, and what can we do to make sure that our audience, which includes public, private, nonprofit, academic, labor, environmental, philanthropic groups, are all here working with us over the years. And we have about 450 attendees today, really coming together to start thinking through the data. What do we do with the data? We don't want to be seen as a think tank. We've been saying we want to be seen as a do tank. Take the information and do something with it. And so this morning, our economists presented the data about the future of Los Angeles, given the challenges that we face on the national level, and some of the opportunities are available, like the Olympic Games, the FIFA World Cup, the Super Bowl that will be coming here. We also talked about some of our other sectors that can really drive this entire region. And of course, we talked about the impact of the fires. We actually just released a recent report, and that will actually be released tomorrow with all the data that talked about the devastation that we could be facing, anywhere from $4.6 billion if we're able to recover quickly, to upwards of $8.9 billion if we don't do it quickly. So that's a big difference, right? And so that's why this morning we covered that information, then we move into our rebuilding, revitalizing, and resilience panels to really start working through the details. And now we're here with you, and we're excited to hear more about some of the programs. Before we get started, I want to also thank you for your partnership and your investment into the Los Angeles region through the California Jobs First process. Thank you. You have actually a lot of the LACJF partners that's been working diligently over the last 2-3 years on this particular process.
Yeah, normally when we say Jobs First, no one claps because they don't know what the hell we're talking about. So I already appreciate all of you and certainly this audience. But by the way, just a couple things, just because I'd be remiss just in your opening, about building back and in a more resilient manner, using science, climate science, building back with the new realities that are self-evident as it relates to the devastation of these fires. Yesterday was an important milestone. Was the most comprehensive and aggressive hazardous waste debris removal that has ever been advanced by the federal government. They were able to actually achieve their goal, which was a stretch goal to begin with, of getting all the hazardous waste done within 30 days. That was formally accomplished substantially yesterday. And I say that not to impress you, but to impress upon you the sense of urgency that we all share in terms of moving quickly. And I think those numbers that you shared only underscore the imperative of rebuilding and rebuilding more resiliently and rebuilding with, again, a recognition of these new realities. We are now concurrently, as you know, and I say concurrently, in the phase 2. We've been in phase 2 of the debris removal process, and that is being conducted by the Army Corps of Engineers with a state prime contractor, ECC, who happens to be a California-based company. And they have subcontractors that are already at work, and we'll be prioritizing with that same sense of urgency this phase 2. What's important to note, again, in the notion of concurrence, you already have people pulling building permits. I was just in Altadena with someone who had her architect. Her phase 2 debris removal is done. She was out there on the site with her architect getting her final permits. Well, she'll be starting construction on her home quite literally just weeks after we formally announced officially that the fire was 100% out. And so it's that sense of urgency, that sort of desire, that intensity, the intentionality that's behind this rebuild and recovery effort. But it's also back to the subject matter, the kind of intentionality that we brought to this Jobs First effort, which we launched about 3 or so years ago. And what we did, along the lines of the spirit of your introduction, is not just trying to do another damn plan, not trying to waste your time. I've been at this for so many years, and I'll remind all of you, I come from the private sector. I didn't get into politics by way of law school or something. I wasn't born a politician, quite the contrary. I always thought I was born an entrepreneur. Opened a small little business right out of college, a little wine store. With 13 investors, $7,500 each, put pen to paper. I was a managing general partner, and I'm very proud. We grew that business now, 22 small businesses up and down the state of California. So I don't, when folks start talk to me about margins and talk to me about appreciation schedules and all that, I don't need to be informed on that. I live it every single day. Inspiration, desperation. And the most proud moments of my life were taking risks and putting everything on the line. I have deep respect and appreciation for all of our entrepreneurs. It's what distinguishes our game in California from the game played all around the rest of the world. That entrepreneurial spirit, being on the leading and cutting edge, our ability to take risks without being reckless. But it was obvious to anybody that in the last few decades, we've frankly been resting on our laurels in California. We put our feet up a little bit. The world we invented, just talk about film production, here is now competing against us all around the globe, not just around the country. And so we needed to step up our game. But rather than being top down, we recognize what you live and experience every single day. And California is not one economy. It's the intersection of so many different economies. We're the size of 21 state populations combined, after all. So by definition, any real economic and workforce development plan had to be bottom up, not top down. So we didn't, there's always a temptation. You want to go fast, you can go alone, in the spirit, Stephen, of all the partners that you've assembled here. And we could have put out a plan and you would have just rolled your eyes. Or we can go far by going together. And that was the process that unfolded, working region by region, 13 regions in partnership with all of you to design in a community-based led effort your vision and advance it. And I think the significance and the success of this to date has been the fact that we funded it along the way. We provided that $5 million grant up front. Then we did those 8 pilot programs, $39 million, because we wanted to prove to you we meant business. And we put that $39 million to work. And then you said we need more. And we provided each one of the regions an additional $14 million to take the plans to the next level. And we're proud now, with the support of the legislature, that money was just made available a few weeks ago for an additional $140 million that you have access to today for ready-to-go projects. This is about action. This is about moving from a sense of idealism to pragmatism. And it's about advancing your vision, which today now we've rolled up into our collective vision, the state plan that we finally are advancing on the basis of all of your hard work. So it's, again, a long way of expressing gratitude to all of you and appreciation for this first kind of initiative in state's history, the most comprehensive that we know of any state in America, that has $287 million that's been put out the door already, backing up the seriousness of purpose that marks its reason and rationale.
Governor, Again, thank you for that investment, because for us here in LA, we have 88 cities. We have over 100 incorporated regions. We have 140 nationalities represented, and we speak 224 languages. So you can imagine coordinating an effort is not easy. Without the jobs first process, I have to say, we wouldn't be able to really coalesce and bring folks together. But I also have to say, at the same time, for all those of you who've been working side by side with us over the last 3 years, it hasn't been an easy process, but it's a necessary process. So your investment allowed us to now bring the group together. I just want to share with you, over the last 3 years as we're working on this, the two report, part 1 and part 2 of the regional plan, that this region worked together. I hope you'll read every page of this.
By the way, I know y'all laugh. Don't test me. Ask the folks in Fresno where we launched this, and Ashley Swearington. I read through every damn thing. I don't like this stuff. I love it. And I mean it. I get all the blood, sweat, and tears. I think you have, what, 38 partners in this process?
Over 700.
Well, okay, but formal partner, but 700 people.
Yeah.
By the way, 10,000. We were able to actually stress this. I thought they were just making up that number. Over 10,000 people across the state of California participated in the development of all of these 13 plans. It's a hell of a testament to what you were able to achieve and what we're achieving, again, at a level of nuance and sophistication and collaboration, which, as you suggest, isn't easy, and that's the point. And I guess the point is the point, that, you know, it's not just about public-private partnerships, 43 years in the making here, but it's about public-public partnerships. It's about our capacity to stretch cities and counties working more collaboratively together with the state and federal agencies, and making sure, again, that we're rowing in a direction with some intentionality. And I think in the past, we've been sort of scattershot in our approach. You've got all these agencies that have been working, some together, most against, in some cases, the other's interest. 9 now state agencies that have been collaborating in this process in a very, very organized way. And we've distilled the essence of all of these plans down to 10 key sectors. It's not an exclusive list, but it's a prioritized list. And we're taking those 10, 4 in particular that we're going to use as a focus over the next few years, because that's all I got left, to pilot more aggressive investment and outreach, particularly in key industries that are reflected in your plan as it relates to defense industry and aerospace and satellite opportunities, of course, where we are here in logistics, other critical areas which require not just our resourcefulness, but real resources, which again are part and parcel of that $140 million that we're announcing today.
Governor, you're mentioning that you read the Fresno plan. I understand that you actually launched a road trip, a tour of learning about all 13 regions. Can you tell us a bit more about what we can learn from the other regions?
These were the good old days. It feels like the black and white movie days before the fires. But right after the election, we received, and it was just beautifully timed, we received that first plan. This whole process, by the way, just a little of the origin story, was inspired by Fresno Drive. The former mayor, Ashley Swearington of Fresno, who I was working with as lieutenant governor. And we were focused on this framework around regions rising together. We were using nomenclature on state's vision is realized at the local level, localisms, determinative, all of these sort of bingo card phrases that we were focused on over the course of those many years when I was lieutenant governor, and Ashley really took it to the next level. And she said, you gotta put up or shut up. I wanna see some real money put into these initiatives. And she inspired the B3K, the Bakersfield Kern County initiative, which was our second. And then Dee Dee Myers came in, and Stewart and the team, these rock stars, and they said, let's scale the hell out of this. And we went to the legislature, and we were able to get significant appropriation to get this process going. But one of the great things, you know, when you're up there in Shasta County, where we were, where I think, you know, the state of Jefferson flags were behind me, and as we were there, the fact that we were there talking about things not that we're doing to them, but things that we want to do with them. changing our language with a little bit of humility and grace was important. Talking about the imperative of career education, not just higher education in the abstract, but career education. We put out a master plan. It's a three-legged stool. Jobs first is part of, it's one leg. Second leg was this career education master plan, along the lines of the master plan for higher education. We've been spending years and years on that. We released that concurrently with these plans to talk about the importance of apprenticeships. And by the way, $92 million of additional investments we are making today as it relates to apprenticeship and high road training and pre-apprenticeship programs that are foundational. Now 600,000 earn and learn apprenticeships. I had a stretch goal when I ran for governor. None of you paid attention to it, and no one believed it was possible. We had a 500,000 goal, and we've broken that. We're now over 600,000 earn and learn apprenticeships because of Stewart's great work, community college, and the work you're doing here, East LA and elsewhere. So all of that, and I'll tell you what the third leg is later if he asks. But all of this is to say these place-based initiatives are a reminder of how spectacular this state is, how fortunate we are to live here. And in the old sort of lexicon of Bill Clinton, it's also a reminder there ain't anything wrong with California that can't be fixed with what's right with California. And I'm reminded of that everywhere I go, and certainly down here in the creative capital of the world, Los Angeles. And so just, again, if I haven't expressed gratitude for the fourth time, let me do it formally. Thank you for inspiring all this and making it real.
Perfect. Governor, I listened well, so what is the third leg?
The third leg has been, and it's very familiar to the folks in the system of higher learning, it's our K through 16 collaboratives. And the K through 16 collaborative was one of the first things we launched that really started kind of the genesis of the quote unquote 13 regions. I talked about the B3K, talked about the Fresno Drive, and how we started to organize. And by the way, one of the great challenges for you, it's a little easier because LA is LA. It's a nation state itself, nation, city, county state, with those 88 cities. But for other regions, these smaller, more rural regions, just figuring that out, what's the footprint of the partnerships, was an endeavor in and of itself. So the K through 16 collaboratives, which were around aligning regionalism to the universities. Again, economic and workforce development. And then there'll be a fourth leg, but this is more of a preview that I'll be rolling out to the legislature shortly, which is the vision. Usually we start with the vision, but I thought you'd all just roll your eyes again and just go, here's a lot of blah, blah nonsense. But we have this, it's called 2035, of where we want to be, where we're going, informed by a lot of what you've done. And I'm so excited about it because it gets the juices flowing. It's a reminder that, this is California. Eat your heart out, fill in the blank. Right, birthplace of life. More scientists, more engineers, more researchers, more Nobel laureates, more patents emanating out of the state than any state in America. We've got Caltech, we've got UC, CSUs, we've got the community college, we've got Stanford. We are conveyor belts for talent, the R&D that's rolling out of here. I'm going to be rolling out quite literally here, talking about the partnerships with NASA and what we're doing in the space industry and this triangle that now persists and exists here in Southern California. I mean, it's so many, quantum computing, what we did at UCLA in partnership with Google just a few months ago, hundreds of millions on this quantum lab. There's nothing like it happening anywhere else. And so I just, that's going to be the next piece, and that I hope will just get people, just remind people that we're nothing but a mirror of our consistent thoughts. And whatever we focus on, we find more of. And I hope that vision document just reminds you that there's a lot to focus on that will distill a sense of well-being as opposed to anxiety. And that's really the intent of that larger document.
And as you're mentioning, you talked about workforce, you talked about businesses. When it comes to economic development, there's so many different partners that need to come together, and especially through the California Jobs Council. So if we need to work together, What's your plan? How do you envision that interconnection working together, and how do we fund that?
Well, I mean, and it's foundationally funded through these commitments and these efforts that we're advancing and reminding, elevating here today. That $140 million is $125 million of grants that are available today, 15 million additional grants that are specifically set aside for Native American communities and tribes, which we think are important and also a critical part of these collaboratives, particularly on the regional basis. We also are funding, again, in the apprenticeship space, new programs that I just previewed, the $92 million. And the council itself is a formalized council, again, state agencies that are represented with 9 different 4-letter departments. And, you know, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell half these damn places, you know, what these names even mean. But all of them codifying all of that and trying to institutionalize all that. And that's really, I think, the ultimate answer to your question, or the most important, is, guys, we all know this. Guys like me come and go. You know, I got a sell-by date. You know, I feel like a damn milk carton. And so how do you institutionalize these changes in a way that transcend your time and pass that baton on to others that make them more dynamic, more aggressive? And that's precisely what I believe we're doing successfully, because we're working not only in collaboration with all of you, but with the legislature in this entire process. And they have been critical, they've been enthusiastic, they've been supportive, Republicans, not just Democrats, and that's reflected in those rural visits. And by the way, in the last six county visits I've been in, we were introduced by Republican leaders in each case. And I just think that's incredibly important. At a time of such division and focus on what divides us, this is unifying, because it's a recognition we're all better off, and we're all better off, and we're all in this together.
And Governor, I know that you have a press conference to make some big announcement today. So the last question for you is, one, before you go, on behalf of this entire room and the partners that we've been working with, and I mentioned the number 700, it's actually a partner organization that we've been building up for this entire region.
That's a hell of a number.
Yeah, and there's going to be more that's going to be part of this whole process. I just want to say that because of that investment, it allowed us to bring our communities together in a way that we haven't seen before. From Lancaster to Long Beach, from Pomona to South LA, from Santa Monica to Altadena to Palisades to Pacoima. We haven't had this synergy before, and because of the California Jobs First process, this infrastructure is there. This is a leading question. And as you're mentioning, coming and going, in your final 22 months of your administration, talk a little bit more about this legacy that you mentioned before.
I don't talk about those words, but we can talk about Kobe's legacy down here, and it wakes people up. But look, I think what I hope is a legacy of this moment with the situational anxiety and stress that obviously, you know, after all the stress and anxiety that you were already under in the last 4, 5, 6 years, with pandemics and social unrest, racial injustice, issues around poverty and disease and all the regular stresses stacked on top of each other, and then these fires, doubt, uncertainty. Your politics may be different than 1600 Pennsylvania, adding to a little of that anxiety and stress. And you opened up quite candidly, even if your politics are aligned, I imagine there's anxiety about federal support. And I'm not talking even for the fires, just generally, you know, NSF funding, National Institute of Health funding. Across the spectrum, I'm concerned about some of those U.S. Forest Service cuts, which is just remarkable that they made cuts to firefighters at a time when we've all readily acknowledged there's no such thing as a fire season. So there is a lot of anxiety. And so one of the things I hope that can come out of it, to the extent it's a legacy for all of us, is a recognition the world has radically changed. Mm-hmm. And that means we have to change. And it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to what happens that matters. And so this notion of resiliency is important. And I think it's really marks the word. I think if there's a state that defines it, it's California, resiliency, as we recover. But I hope as we recover with a resilient mindset, then in order to achieve the revitalization that is required and is part of your mandate and vision, is that we don't allow our mind to go back to its original form. And I say that to make this point. Permitting, issues around regulation, restoring a sense of trust that we can accomplish big things together, achieving results, not being consumed exclusively by process, actually producing for the taxpayers. Seeing is believing. People want to see results and they demand it. The housing permitting work that is being done today in LA City and County, it's mesmerizing what we can do when we have to do things differently. We can't allow to go back to the way things were. We have to have a new frame of reference. And so for me, look, suspending the Coastal Act, I get it. That's a little more challenging on a permanent basis, though that was done through an executive order. I know it created anxiety. We spent a lot of CEQA. I know that creates anxiety. I'm not arguing for binaries here, but I am arguing for fundamental, permanent change. We cannot, I pray, and I ask you sincerely, my ask to you as I end and get off stage, is to help in that process, to demand more of our local elected officials. Again, localism, back to the frame, is determinative. State's vision is realized locally. Your vision ultimately is realized locally. We have to do things fundamentally differently. And I talk about the world we invented is competing against us. That was from a competitor's frame. But in many respects, the processes and the rulemaking and everything we've done to stop housing investment and to impact small business growth, medium-sized business growth in this state, that's the world we invented as well. And so we have to do things differently. And that would be an extraordinary legacy of your effort and this collective effort with Jobs First. Thank you all very, very much for all you're doing. And thank you for having this guy at the helm. Stephen's a rock star.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Governor. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.